It was the middle of the night when that trembling voice came through the door crack. "John, what? What did you see?" Emily's voice shook in the darkness. "Emily, I shouldn't have walked in without knocking. Now I know. I saw everything. How hard it is for you being alone." Her face went white as a sheet. Shame and confusion mixed on it all at once. "John, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. You have nothing to apologize for. For a young woman living by herself, it's natural, but it's so humiliating." She pulled the blanket over herself and started to cry. "Emily, how long has Michael been gone?" 3 months. "I haven't seen his face in 3 months. And all 3 months you've been like this, alone?" "Yes. Every night, all by myself." My heart squeezed with pain. My daughter-in-law had been handling her loneliness every single night for 3 months. "Emily, if you're not against it, yes. I can help you." Her eyes went wide, disbelief all over her face. "John, what are you saying? Don't suffer alone. I'm right here." "But I'm your daughter-in-law." "I know. But first and foremost you're a lonely woman, and I'm a lonely man." That night, with the rain tapping on the windows, every principle I'd built over 67 years collapsed. Everything started in early April when the lilacs were just beginning to bloom. Last Thursday my daughter-in-law Emily called me. In a careful voice she asked if she could come stay for a month in the small town upstate. Of course I agreed. My son Michael had gone on another long business trip to Hong Kong for a month. Emily figured the fresh country air would be better than sitting alone in their New York apartment. Honestly, it had been too quiet in this big wooden house where I'd lived by myself for 6 years. After my wife passed, laughter never echoed here again. For a 67-year-old widower the place had become nothing more than somewhere to sleep. Emily arrived on Saturday around 3 in the afternoon. The bus ride from New York City took about an hour and a half. I had gone to the market that morning, picked up some pickled mushrooms I'd heard she liked, and grabbed a jar of beet salad with garlic from the corner store. Back home I aired out the main bedroom, set fresh sheets, and even put a vase of wildflowers on the dresser. When Emily stepped through the gate her face looked thinner than the last time I'd seen her in the city. She'd always been petite, but now her cheeks were sunken and her chin seemed sharp. She wore a black long-sleeve t-shirt and jeans that hung loose on her. At 5'2", her slight frame and tired expression made my chest tighten. She carried only one small suitcase. For a month-long visit that bag seemed far too light. I took it and showed her to the bedroom. Breathing in the smell of clean sheets, Emily gave a weak smile that never reached her eyes. Dinner that first night was quiet. I put out the mushrooms and heated up some soup from the fridge. Emily served herself just half a ladle and only sipped the broth. When I asked if she had any appetite she said digestion had been off lately. When I asked if she'd seen a doctor she said it was just stress, nothing serious. After that she stared at her plate and didn't say another word. I didn't push, but I felt this quiet daughter-in-law carried some deep pain. After dinner Emily went to her room and I stepped onto the porch for a cigarette. The April evening air was still cool. Stars filled the sky and frog calls drifted from the pond down the road. Blowing out smoke, I silently scolded my son. Michael had driven his wife to this point. After college he joined a big firm and became obsessed with work. They'd been married 6 years but he spent more nights on the road than at home. My sister had told me he even blamed Emily for them not having kids. What right did he have to talk about children when he gave her no attention at all? I finished the cigarette and went inside. Light still showed under Emily's door. She wasn't asleep yet. I paused and listened. No sound, no TV, no music, just silence. Too quiet, and that felt strange. I got a glass of water in the kitchen and went to my small room. The bedroom my wife and I had shared was now the guest room. I slept in the little room off the hallway. I lay down but sleep wouldn't come. Around 11 I got thirsty again and headed back to the kitchen. Passing Emily's door I saw the light still on. This time I heard a quiet sound. Crying. My daughter-in-law was crying. I stopped. I wanted to knock and ask if everything was all right, but I didn't. Maybe she was talking to Michael on the phone. A father-in-law shouldn't interfere in moments like that. I drank my water and went back to bed, but the sound of her crying stayed with me. It was soft, pitiful, held back crying. Poor thing, I sighed at the ceiling. I'd cried every night the first year after losing my wife. I knew exactly what it meant when the person you'd lived with for 50 years was gone and the emptiness grew huge. But Emily was crying even though her husband was alive. That somehow felt even sadder. The next morning Emily got up early and made breakfast. She boiled potato soup and made an omelette, insisting everything was fine and I shouldn't worry. She looked calm, hard to believe she was the same person who had cried all night, yet her eyes were a little swollen. When I asked how she slept, she said she'd slept great thanks to the fresh air. It was a lie. I knew the truth. After breakfast Emily said she wanted to sweep the yard. I didn't stop her. Physical work might help her state of mind more than sitting idle. She took the broom and started sweeping. April sunlight lit her dark hair. I sat on the porch and watched quietly. She looked so fragile. With the broom in her hands she could have passed for a high school senior. Yet what a heavy load rested on those small shoulders. I thought of my wife. She'd been short too, but she had kept our home warm and supported me every day. That day I worked in the garden, planting lettuce, tying up pepper seedlings, straightening the pumpkin vines. Emily cleaned inside the house. By evening she sat on the bench by the cellar and stared at the sky, detached. I saw her when I came back from the garden. In the setting sun her profile looked impossibly lonely. That night crying came from Emily's room again, clearer this time. I stood at the kitchen sink and looked toward her door. What would happen if she cried like this every night? I hesitated, almost knocked, but kept walking. It felt awkward to knock on my daughter-in-law's door in the middle of the night. 3 days passed that way. By day Emily quietly did chores or sat in the yard, at night she cried in her room. I heard it but pretended not to know. On the 4th night I woke to a different sound through sleep. Not crying, something else. A soft moan, controlled breathing. I opened my eyes. The clock showed 1 in the morning. I got up carefully. When I stepped into the hallway the sound grew clearer. It came from the bedroom. I tiptoed across. The door was open a crack, about a finger's width. A dim light showed through. Holding my breath I moved to the crack and looked inside. My heart seemed to stop. Emily sat on the edge of the bed in a thin nightgown, comforting herself. Eyes closed, lip bitten, her small hand moved over her body, letting out quiet sighs. Tears ran down her face. I froze. What was this? My head clouded. I knew I should step back, but my legs wouldn't move. My heart pounded and my mouth went dry. She kept going for a long time. At one point she let out a soft sob. Collapsing back on the bed she looked like the loneliest person in the world. Only then did I back away. In my room I closed the door and pulled the blanket over my head. The scene wouldn't leave my mind, the bare shoulder, the tear-streaked face, the trembling hand. This was wrong. I yanked the blanket higher and squeezed my eyes shut, but the picture stayed. Worse, heat spread through my body. I was 67. 6 years since my wife died. In all that time I hadn't been with a woman. I'd believed I had no desire left, no strength for it. That night I understood I was still a man. After that I couldn't look Emily in the eye. At breakfast on the porch I kept glancing away. The scene replayed in my head again and again. At one point Emily asked gently if I was sick. I jumped so hard I nearly dropped my spoon. No, everything's fine, I answered. She said I looked unwell and asked if I'd slept badly. Of course I hadn't slept. How could I after seeing my daughter-in-law ease her own longing? But I couldn't say that. I blamed my age and said I hadn't been sleeping well lately. That day I didn't go to the garden. Instead I decided to tear down the old shed behind the house. Being in the same space with Emily felt uncomfortable, no, not uncomfortable, frightening. I was scared of the strange feelings waking up inside me. While clearing the shed I found my wife's things, an old sewing kit, a worn apron, her favorite flowered scarf. I took them out one by one and remembered her. Honey, I'm having strange thoughts right now, I told her silently. She had died of cancer 6 years ago and had held my hand to the end, asking me not to live alone. She had meant remarrying, not wanting my daughter-in-law. I sighed, closed the shed, and looked toward the house. Emily was hanging laundry on the porch. She was simply my son's wife. I repeated that to myself, but the strange heat in my chest wouldn't fade. That evening I stopped at the country store and bought a 6-pack of beer. Back home I sat on the porch and started drinking. Without alcohol I didn't think I could handle the awkwardness. Emily set the kitchen table with roast and a fresh salad. I drank beer and ate. She sat across from me quietly eating. I stole a glance. Today's gray t-shirt seemed to cling to her body more than usual. No, that was just how I was looking. I quickly looked away and took another sip. Suddenly Emily asked if she had done something wrong. I jumped and met her eyes. She said I seemed to be avoiding her lately and asked if she had offended me somehow. No, I said. It's not that. I couldn't go on. I didn't know how to explain. I couldn't say I was avoiding her because I had seen her comforting herself at night. I just said I hadn't been feeling well and it had nothing to do with her. Emily sighed with relief, but sadness still lingered in her eyes. After dinner she washed dishes. I sat on the porch again with more beer. The April night was cool, stars everywhere. Emily asked if she could sit with me. I nodded. She settled beside me carefully. She smelled like soap, she must have showered. Emily looked up and said there were so many stars. I agreed and explained that in the country you could see them, unlike in New York where they were almost gone. Yeah, almost none, she answered. We watched the sky in silence for a while. Crickets chirped in the yard. Then Emily said, "Thank you." I asked for what? Thank you for letting me rest so peacefully. In New York it was so stuffy I could hardly breathe. Her voice trembled a little. I looked at her. In the moonlight her profile looked especially pale. I asked carefully how often Michael was home. Emily was quiet, then nodded. Once or twice a month. And even then he comes in late and leaves early, so we barely see each other. You must get very lonely, I said. Emily answered that everything was fine. Isn't this how everyone lives, she said, trying to smile. But the smile was so sad. I remembered the scene from that night, my daughter-in-law alone, crying, comforting herself. How lonely she must have been. How strong her need must have been to do that. I told Emily that if things ever got too hard she could always talk to me. I would listen. She looked at me, surprise and gratitude mixed in her eyes. Thank you, she said. We watched the sky again. That night I saw my daughter-in-law not just as my son's wife but as a lonely woman. That night sounds came from Emily's room again. This time I didn't go for water. I just lay in bed and listened. Soft moans, controlled breathing, the rustle of blankets. All of it reached my ears through the wall. I closed my eyes but the sounds kept circling in my head and hot blood started moving through my body. No, this wasn't right. I scolded myself but my body wouldn't obey. It was a feeling I hadn't had in all 67 years, or rather, one I had long forgotten. I pulled the blanket over my head and pressed my face into the pillow, but the sounds from Emily's room didn't stop. That night I barely slept. The next morning I sat at the table with red eyes. Emily had made breakfast as usual, but she looked tired too. Dark circles under her eyes. We ate in silence. An awkward quiet filled the room. Suddenly Emily asked if she had made noise during the night. My breath caught. Noise? What do you mean? I asked. She wondered if she had talked in her sleep or something. I said no, I hadn't heard anything. I lied. Emily sighed with relief. Thank God, she said. Lately I have a lot of dreams. I was afraid I was bothering you. Everything's fine, I told her. Don't worry. But I knew it wasn't dreams. She was easing her loneliness every night. That day I went to the garden. Under the blazing sun I pulled weeds, trying to clear my head. But the images kept coming. This couldn't continue. I couldn't look at my daughter-in-law that way. Yet the scene kept rising in my memory. I dropped the hoe and sighed. Just then someone called my name. I turned. My younger sister Val was walking down the path. She said she had come to say hello after hearing my daughter-in-law had arrived. She was 61 but still full of energy, living alone in town and running her own place. Go say hi, I told her. About an hour later Val came back. Your daughter-in-law doesn't look well, she said. She's lost a lot of weight. Something's eating at her. Who knows? Michael works too much, never home, I answered. Val clicked her tongue. Oh, that workaholic. Why did he even get married? Left his wife alone and he's always somewhere else. Young people these days live like that, I said. Still, Val argued, that lonely look in her eyes makes my heart bleed. Her words made my heart stop. So Emily's loneliness was obvious even to my sister. Val asked me to pay more attention so my daughter-in-law wouldn't feel so alone. I promised. After she left I stood holding the hoe, hands weak. Lonely look. The words echoed. Yes, Emily was lonely, lonely enough to comfort herself in tears every night. I looked at the sky. The April sky was clear and blue. Under that sky a strange feeling grew inside me. Was it sympathy, pity, or desire? I didn't know. One thing was clear, I could no longer see Emily as only my daughter-in-law. That evening I went to bed early but sleep wouldn't come. I listened. The sound came from the bedroom again. Quiet crying, held back sighs, rustling blankets. I threw off the blanket, stood up, and walked into the hallway. My feet carried me to her door. Light showed underneath. I stopped and looked through the crack once more. Emily was alone again. Her shoulder, bare where the nightgown slipped, glowed in the moonlight. Eyes closed, lip bitten, she comforted herself in solitude. In that moment I understood, this wasn't just sympathy or pity. It was desire. A 67-year-old man felt desire for his daughter-in-law that he shouldn't feel. I stood there a long time, a quiet sigh escaping me. After that night I couldn't sleep. Lying in bed staring at the ceiling I kept wondering what I was thinking. Was this normal? Or was it just old man foolishness to want my daughter-in-law? A 67-year-old father-in-law looking at a 34-year-old woman that way. Obviously wrong. But the scene played over and over. Emily's lonely back as she comforted herself in tears wouldn't leave my mind. This woman craved warmth. At the thought my heart beat faster. It was a strange feeling I hadn't had in 67 years. I hadn't felt even with my wife. I finally fell asleep at 5 in the morning. When I woke around 8, sounds already came from the kitchen. Emily was making breakfast. I washed up and went in. She was boiling soup and frying an omelette, but her back looked tense. Sleep well? I asked first. Emily jumped. Huh? Yes, fine, she answered, voice quieter than usual. I sat and watched her back. Gray t-shirt, black leggings. Her small waist showed through the fabric. I looked away and took a glass of water. Emily set the table but stayed standing. Why aren't you sitting? I asked. Her voice shook. I'm sorry, she began and couldn't finish, lips trembling. My heart dropped. Had she realized I stood at the door? But her next words were different. I must have been too noisy. I guess you couldn't sleep because of me. No, I said. Don't lie, Emily said. You look exhausted. I must have cried out in my sleep. I'm really sorry. Tears appeared in her eyes. I waved my hands, flustered. No, really, it's fine. I just don't sleep well at my age. Sit down, I said. Let's eat. I tried to sound as calm as possible. Emily hesitated but sat across from me. She barely ate, only pushing rice around with her spoon. Eat more, I told her. If you don't eat you'll get weak. I'm sorry, she said. I haven't had much appetite lately. Why do you keep apologizing? I asked. You haven't done anything wrong. At my words Emily lifted her head and looked at me. Surprise and relief mixed in her gaze. You really mean that? Everything's okay, she asked. Yes, everything's fine, I answered. But it wasn't. My head was in complete chaos. This situation, my daughter-in-law apologizing for her nights, was strange and heartbreaking at the same time. After breakfast Emily washed dishes. I stepped onto the porch for a cigarette. The April morning air was fresh, but my thoughts were foggy. What should I do? I understood Emily was lonely. I understood she was handling that loneliness far from her indifferent husband. But what could I, her father-in-law, do for her? I finished the cigarette and went inside. Emily sat on the porch folding laundry. I carefully sat beside her. Emily, I called. Yes, John, she answered. Is it very hard for you? At the unexpected question her hands froze. She set the laundry down and folded her hands in her lap. Everything's fine, she said. Don't lie. I hear you crying at night. Her face went white as a sheet. John, she started and stopped. You're lonely because Michael isn't home. Is that right? I asked. Emily didn't answer. She only lowered her head and bit her lip. John, I'm sorry, she said. I should have just endured it. You don't have to endure it, I told her. Crying isn't a crime. But I'm causing you trouble, Emily said. It's not trouble. I wanted to put a hand on her shoulder but stopped. It felt wrong. Emily, I know it's hard for you, I said. I know how lonely it is for a young woman to live alone. John, Emily whispered. Have you talked to Michael about how hard it is? Emily shook her head. Useless. Michael only knows work. He has no interest in home. We're not really husband and wife anymore. Her voice suddenly turned cold. We're just people living in the same house. We see each other a few times a year. What kind of husband and wife is that? I couldn't say anything. I understood the deep wound behind those words. So at night you're alone, the words slipped out. Emily flinched and looked at me. John, you saw, she asked. I couldn't lie. Last night I got up for water and the door was open a little. Oh. Emily breathed out. Color flooded her face. She covered her face with her hands. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I must be out of my mind. No, you're not out of your mind, I said quickly. It's natural when a young woman lives alone, things like that happen. But it's so shameful in front of you, Emily said. She kept her hands over her face and cried. Watching her tears, my heart broke. Don't be ashamed. Everyone is like that. You too, do you do that too? Emily suddenly asked. Me? I asked back. You're alone too. Are you lonely? I'm old, I started and stopped. Don't people get lonely in old age? Emily asked. Her gaze was fixed on me, full of genuine curiosity. I looked at her in silence for a long time, then spoke slowly. Lonely. I'm human too. 6 years alone isn't easy. So you do that too, Emily said. Yes, sometimes, I answered. At my admission Emily's eyes widened, but there was more sympathy than surprise in her look. You were lonely too, she said. Yes, I was, I answered. We sat quietly for a while. Birds chirped in the yard. April sunlight warmed the porch. John, Emily called. Yes. Can I ask a strange question? What is it? Emily hesitated, then asked carefully, how do you cope? With the loneliness? My breath caught. My daughter-in-law asking her father-in-law that question already crossed a line. I just endure, I answered. And it gets easier? No, it doesn't get easier. You just get used to it. Emily gave a sad smile at my answer. I guess I'll have to get used to this loneliness too. Something inside my chest snapped at those words. The thought of a 34-year-old woman living for decades simply getting used to loneliness felt too cruel. Without realizing it I spoke. Emily, I called. Yes, she answered. I can help. Emily lifted her head and looked at me. Help? What do you mean? I hesitated a long time. I knew I shouldn't say it. These words would cross a line with no return, but my mouth was already moving. When you're lonely, when it's so hard being alone, if you're not against it, I can help. Emily's face went white as a sheet. She stared at me with disbelief. John, what are you saying? I know it's wrong, but Emily, you're young, too young to live in this kind of loneliness. But I'm your daughter-in-law, Emily said. I know that too. And I know it's a crazy idea. I took Emily's hand. Her hand was cold. But Emily, we're both lonely. Both alone. Would it be so bad if we comforted each other? Emily didn't answer. Only tears ran down her cheeks. Think about it. Don't rush. If you decide it's possible, tell me. I let go of her hand and stood. I was about to walk into the yard when Emily's voice came from behind. John, she called. I turned. Emily still sat on the porch, crying. Can we really do that? She asked. I don't know, but it would be better than now. Emily nodded and whispered, I'll think about it. I walked into the yard. My heart pounded wildly. What had I just said? How far was I willing to go? I didn't even know. But one thing was clear, I had made an offer that couldn't be taken back, and my daughter-in-law hadn't refused. The next 3 days Emily and I barely spoke. We met in the mornings with only nods. Meals were silent. My offer seemed to have raised an invisible wall between us. I regretted it. I scolded myself for speaking too soon, For saying what I shouldn't have said to my daughter-in-law. Every night before sleep I thought, tomorrow morning I'll apologize and ask her to forget those words. But in the morning my tongue wouldn't move. Emily had changed too. She grew even quieter than usual and stopped smiling. She did chores mechanically, without any emotion. On the third day the weather turned bad. Clouds covered the sky from morning, and by afternoon a strong wind rose. I quickly moved flower pots under the awning and took down the laundry. Looks like heavy rain. Did you close all the windows? I asked Emily. She only nodded. Around 6 the rain came down hard. Real downpour, thunder, lightning. After dinner Emily went to her room. I sat on the porch listening to the rain and drinking vodka. I wanted to numb the tension that had built over 3 days. By 10 the rain grew heavier. The yard turned into one big puddle. Raindrops hammered the roof louder than the thunder. Drunk and unsteady, I made my way to my room, made the bed, and lay down, but I couldn't sleep. The rain was too loud. Suddenly there was a knock at my door. "John," came Emily's voice. I got up quickly and opened the door. Emily stood on the threshold in a thin cotton nightgown. Her shoulders were wet. "What happened? Is something wrong?" "The roof is leaking in my room," Emily said. I hurried to the bedroom. Sure enough, water dripped from one corner of the ceiling. A puddle had already formed on the floor. "Oh, looks like a shingle cracked," I said. I brought a basin from the kitchen and placed it under the drip. But the rain was so heavy the basin seemed it would fill fast. "You can't sleep here tonight." "Sleep in my room." "Your room?" Emily repeated. "Yes. I'll sleep on the porch." "No, I'll sleep on the porch," Emily said. "Don't be silly. You're the guest. Sleep in my room and I'll take the porch." I got another blanket from my room and made a bed on the porch. Emily stood looking guilty. "Are you sure you'll be comfortable?" she asked. "Everything's fine. Go to sleep." Emily went into my room. I lay on the porch. Without a ceiling the rain sounded even louder. About an hour passed. I still couldn't sleep. The porch was hard, my back hurt, and the rain didn't let up. Suddenly my door opened. "John, are you asleep?" Emily's voice. "No, I'm not asleep," I answered. "How can you sleep on the porch?" "Come into the room," Emily said. "Everything's fine. I'll sleep here." "John, please." Emily's voice trembled. "I'm scared. The thunder is so loud, I'm scared to be alone." I sat up. Emily stood in the doorway looking at me. In the dim light her face looked pale. "Would you stay with me in the room?" she asked. At those words my heart stopped. My daughter-in-law was asking her father-in-law to stay in the same room with her. This wasn't just a request. I slowly stood and walked into my room where Emily waited. The room was warm. Emily had laid out 2 mattresses, one in each corner. "You sleep there," she said. I nodded and went to my mattress. We lay down in our separate beds. We turned out the light. Every time lightning flashed the room lit up. "John," Emily's voice came in the dark. "Yes," I answered. "What you said 3 days ago, were you serious?" My breath caught. "That you could help me. Is that true?" "Emily," I called. I thought about it for 3 days, Emily's voice shook. At first I thought it was crazy. How could a father-in-law and daughter-in-law? She stopped. Lightning flashed and thunder rolled. "But I'm so lonely, so tired. I can't live alone like this anymore." "You're lonely too. You've been alone for 6 years. So maybe we..." Emily said. "Emily, stop," I interrupted. "Do you understand what you're saying? This is wrong." "What's wrong?" Emily's voice suddenly grew louder. "My husband doesn't see me as a woman. I don't know how many times a year we even see each other. He doesn't call, doesn't text. I'm just a name on paper to him." Emily started to sob. "I'm a woman too. I'm a person too. I need warmth. I need someone's warmth." I threw off the blanket and stood. In the dark I went to Emily and knelt beside her bed. "Emily, come to your senses. What are you saying?" "John." Emily sat up in bed and took my hand. "Please, don't let me be alone anymore. At least for tonight let me feel I'm not alone." Lightning flashed. In its light I saw Emily's face. Tear-streaked, pleading in her eyes. "Please," she whispered. In that moment something inside me collapsed. 67 years of reason, morality, ethics, all of it fell apart. I hugged Emily. Her small body pressed against me. It was warm. So warm. The warmth of a woman I had missed for 6 years. "John," Emily said. "I'm sorry, I can't take it anymore," I said. I took Emily's face in my hands and kissed her on the lips. At first Emily flinched in surprise, but then she wrapped her arms around my neck and kissed me back. We kissed. In that kiss 6 years of loneliness and 34 years of deprivation dissolved. When we pulled apart, Emily whispered in my ear, "John, I'm shaking." "I'm shaking too," I answered. "I've never shaken like this before." "Me too." I slowly laid Emily back on the bed. She closed her eyes. Her long lashes trembled. "Emily, it's not too late," I said. "We can still stop." At my words Emily opened her eyes and touched my cheek. "No. I don't want to be alone anymore." Those words gave me permission. Outside the rain still poured, thunder rolled, lightning flashed. But all those sounds seemed to disappear. I felt only Emily. Her warm body, her trembling breath, filled every sense. In 67 years I had never felt anything like this. This heat I hadn't felt even with my wife. This wasn't just desire. It was a desperate need born of loneliness. It was a flame sparked by two people in need meeting. I held her tighter and whispered in her ear, "Now you're not alone. We're both not alone anymore." "John, thank you. Really, thank you." Emily cried against my chest. But these weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of gratitude for warmth she might have felt for the first time in 6 years, or maybe in her whole life. The rain gradually eased. Thunder moved farther away. We lay in bed holding each other. Emily pressed her face to my chest and I stroked her hair. "John," Emily said. "Yes," I answered. "This isn't a dream, right?" "Not a dream. Can we really do this? Us? I don't know." I fell silent. I lifted Emily's face and looked into her eyes. "I don't regret it." "Do you?" Emily shook her head. "I don't regret it either. I feel alive for the first time." I kissed her forehead. "Now let's sleep, okay?" "Yes," Emily answered. She closed her eyes, pressing close to me. I listened to her steady breathing and looked at the ceiling. What would happen next? It was frightening, unsettling, but at the same time my heart felt strangely warm. For the first time in 6 years I wasn't alone. After that night our relationship changed completely. In the morning I woke with Emily in my arms. I began each day stroking her hair. There was no more awkwardness, no more shame. There were only two people sharing warmth with each other. "John, it's time to get up." Emily patted my cheek lightly. I opened my eyes and looked at her. In the morning light her face glowed. "A little longer," I said and pulled her to me. Emily laughed and pressed against me. "John, I'm hungry," she said. "All right, let's get up." We got up together and went to make breakfast. While Emily started cooking oatmeal I made soup. Beside her I fried eggs and sliced sausage. "John, do you like eggs?" Emily asked. "Yes, I do," I answered. "Then I'll fry you another one." Emily cracked another egg into the pan. It looked so natural, as if we had lived like this for many years. At breakfast Emily said, "John, we need to fix the roof in the bedroom." "Yes, I'll ask the town supervisor today to find a roofer." "Can I come with you?" Emily asked. "Of course. We'll go together." We walked to the supervisor's together. The supervisor, about my age, saw Emily and his eyes widened. "Ah, this is your daughter-in-law?" "Yes, she came from New York for a little while." "Oh, she's beautiful." "Lucky you, John," the supervisor said. He was very polite to Emily. And promised to send a roofer after lunch. On the way back Emily took my arm. "John, look at those beautiful flowers," she said. Lilacs bloomed along the roadside. Emily crouched and touched the petals. "Beautiful, aren't they?" I asked. "Yes, very. You don't see them like this in New York. Flowers everywhere here. The apple trees will bloom soon, then the cherries." "I wish I could see the cherry blossoms," Emily's voice grew a little sad. I understood what she was thinking. By the time the cherries bloomed, she would already be back in New York. Emily, I called. Maybe you could stay longer? Emily gave a bitter smile at my question. We can't do that. In a month I have to go back. What if you told Michael you were staying? He wouldn't care. Whatever I do, he doesn't care. Emily fell silent. Well, we can't keep doing this, she said. Her words stung my heart. Why can't we? John, we're father-in-law and daughter-in-law. This has to end sometime. I don't want it to end. At my words, Emily squeezed my hand tightly. I don't want it to end either, but reality is reality. We watched the lilacs in silence for a while. The spring breeze moved the petals. After lunch, the roofer came and fixed the roof in the bedroom. But Emily didn't go back to her room. She kept sleeping with me. At night we held each other. There was no more awkwardness. We learned each other's bodies, felt each other's souls. John, Emily said, face pressed to my chest. Yes? I'm happy. I'm happy too. I haven't been happy in so long. Me neither, I said. Never? Emily asked. Yes, not even with my wife did I feel this. At my words, Emily lifted her head and looked at me. Am I special? She asked. You're special. You made me feel alive again. Tears appeared in Emily's eyes. You too. You brought me back to life. We kissed. A long, deep kiss. In that kiss were feelings words couldn't express. A week passed that way. All week we lived like newlyweds. We worked in the garden together, went to the store together, ate together, and fell asleep together. I can say it was the happiest week of my life. But all good things come to an end. One evening, Emily's phone rang. Hello? Yes, tomorrow. Suddenly. All right, Emily said, answering the call. After hanging up, Emily's face darkened. Who was that? I asked. Michael is coming here tomorrow. He got a week off work. Said he'd come to the country to rest. My heart dropped. Why? They gave him time off at work. He said he'd come rest in the country. And when is he coming? Tomorrow afternoon. We looked at each other in silence. Michael's arrival meant our relationship was over. That night we held each other as if for the last time. Emily cried on my chest and I held her tight. John, don't forget me, Emily said. You don't forget me either. And this time we spent together. I won't forget any of it. I won't forget any of it either. The next day after lunch Michael arrived. Dad, how are you? He greeted me. Good, I answered. Michael didn't even look at Emily. He just threw his things in the room, sat on the couch, and buried himself in his phone. Michael, at least say hello to your wife, I said. At my words Michael looked up and glanced briefly at Emily. How are you? He asked. Fine, Emily answered. That was all. After 3 weeks apart, husband and wife exchanged only 2 words. My heart ached. I was ashamed that this person was my son. Dinner passed in awkward silence. Michael ate and went to his room. Emily washed dishes. I stepped onto the porch for a cigarette. So this was how he treated his wife. No wonder Emily felt lonely. I silently blamed my son. At the same time I understood that if my son had treated his wife properly, my relationship with Emily never would have happened. My feelings were mixed. That night Emily slept alone in the bedroom again. Michael took my room and I slept on the porch. April passed. Michael remained indifferent to Emily. He only stared at his phone and sat at the computer. On the 4th day, Emily called me into the yard. John, she called. Yes. I'm going back to New York tomorrow. Why? You still have a week left. There's no point staying here. Michael doesn't care about me. When I'm next to you, I keep thinking about you. We can't do that, John. Let's stop. This can't go on forever. My heart broke. Do you really have to leave? Yes, I have to. So we won't see each other again? Emily nodded. We'll see each other at holidays or funerals, but it won't be like before. All right, I answered. I couldn't say more. A lump rose in my throat. The next morning Emily packed her things. Michael didn't even come out to see her off, he was asleep in his room. John, thank you for everything. Emily bowed in the hallway. No need. Thank you. Thanks to you, I was able to live again. Me too. We looked at each other in silence. I wanted to say 1,000 words but none came out. Safe travels. Yes, take care of yourself, John. Emily walked out the gate with her suitcase. I stood at the gate and watched her back. At the end of the street, Emily turned and waved. I waved back. That was how Emily disappeared. I stood at the gate a long time, then slowly went inside. The empty house seemed so quiet. After lunch, the mail carrier came. John, a letter for you. I took the letter. It was from New York. Sender, Emily. I sat in the yard and opened the envelope. John, I'm sorry I'm saying goodbye this way, in a letter. If I spoke I would cry, so I'm writing. John, thank you. The month I spent here was the warmest spring of my life. I was married for 6 years but never once felt loved. Yet in that short time I spent with you I felt like a woman for the first time, felt like a valuable person. I don't know if what we did was wrong. People would probably judge us, but I don't regret it and I hope you don't either. We simply comforted each other. Two lonely people sharing warmth. It wasn't a sin, it was comfort. John, stay healthy and happy. I'll go back to my ordinary life now, but sometimes, very rarely, I'll remember that month and smile. And don't be lonely. I hope you meet someone good. I loved you, John. Not for long, but sincerely. Emily. After reading the letter I cried. In 67 years I had never cried like that. I carefully folded the letter, put it in my pocket, and looked at the yard. In the corner an apple tree grew, covered in white blossoms. Spring had come. I sat under the apple tree. Petals torn by the wind fell onto my knees. Thank you, Emily, I whispered. And you be happy too. The April breeze blew. The scent of apple blossoms filled the yard. I sat a long time, breathing in that fragrance, and understood that love knows no age, comfort knows no forms, and some meetings, even short ones, warm an entire life. The house was empty, but my heart was warm, because in this house remained the memory of the spring Emily gave me.